Are you all there? Hello.
Hello, we're here. Sorry,
Great.
I was trying to unmute myself.
That's okay. We're just getting organized here, but we're gonna start the workshop, and we have your packet in front of us here. Do you just want to talk a little bit about what your intent for the project is and any questions that you have for us starting out, and then we'll start a discussion across the board?
Sure. Well, thanks everyone. Sorry we couldn't be there in person. I have a little bit of a travel conflict today, and I know it's getting late, so appreciate everybody hanging in there. So we are looking at the corner of South Central and Summit, which everybody probably knows is the old Merchants of Beer site. Our client is developing a new hotel there at that corner. We are basically going to have a 7-story hotel with approximately 175 guest rooms, and it's branded as a Moxie by Marriott, which is not familiar with the Moxie brand, something more of a modern hotel brand, and they concentrate on lively social gathering spaces and kind of activation of the ground floor. So just to kind of go over the plan itself, we want to flip over to the site plan, kind of go through that, and then we can go through the exterior materials. We are looking at basically fronting our buildings, or obviously most of our frontage along Summit and South Central Street. We do have a vehicular entrance off of State Street, which we're going to bring cars off of, so we don't anticipate any need for stacking or anything like that. We're bringing them we're going to be bringing them under the building there for valet drop off and pickup. And that'll be the main kind of vehicular entrance that's going to be part of the hotel there, as you see with the black arrow there by the drive entrance. We have provided, as you walk into the hotel, it's going to be concentrated with along the frontage of both Summit Hill and South Central is going to be primarily a lobby space activated with a bar, seating, and part of Moxie's kind of plans. They also do they kind of have a playful lobby area, so we'll be doing different types of games and things like that. That's part of the brand with the Moxie. On the opposite side, and I'll kind of go over some of the site constraints here. As you're coming down south, we have 2 entrances there, one off of Summit Hill and one off of South Central that kind of lead into the hotel lobby itself. So we're proposing 3 planned entrances off of that. Sorry, I think the site plan. Yeah. And then on South Central, we have 2 entrances. One is for the bar, or I guess it's going to be leading to the bar, but the hotel lobby, and one is adjacent to there, and it's going to be more of the administrative spaces with offices and things like that, fronting South Central Street. The open to above, which you kind of see there in the middle there, that was one of the site constraints that we were working with the city of Knoxville on. And if you go to the site plan itself, and revert back to that on the ground floor, you'll see there's a pretty big swath that's separating in the middle. It's kind of paved there. It's designated with a 15-foot diagonal there, or 15-foot hatch mark. That is an easement that we have worked out with the city of Knoxville, KUB, and it basically is a 15-foot wide easement that's existing in place for a sanitary line that's crossing through the site, and it has to be a 15-foot high as well. So what we've decided to do is actually, as part of that activation of that ground floor, in addition to what's going on within the lobby space itself, is during event days, potentially game days or anything like that, the ownership team can actually utilize that space and make it more of an outdoor kind of area. They'll bring tables and chairs out. They're going to do kind of a pop-up bar, things like that can also help to activate South Central Street there, because the primary user access vehiculars would only be for service and utilities at that point. There would be no kind of any kind of entrance or anything like that for a guest or vehicular traffic. All the vehicular traffic for hotel guests will be limited to State Street only. I guess if we can kind of scroll up, the primary sorry, I'm getting a little, okay, there we go. All right, so the ground floor's got our hotel lobby, bar, got some gaming areas, as well as our work areas and offices for the hotel. Level 2 through 6 is going to be primarily guest rooms, And then level 7 will have a rooftop component that kind of overlooks the old city and South Central and kind of out towards the ball field as well. Some of the things that we took into consideration as we're kind of looking at the exterior design components were, the location of it. We know we're classified as a DKG district, but we're going to be, we're sitting next to the DKW warehouse district, and we wanted to kind of pay a little bit of homage to that with some of the use of windows, the use of brick. Our primary facade materials are brick, fiber cement. We got a little bit of metal panel and some Corten steel. And that's pretty much it. Majority of our facade is going to be brick. And we are accentuating the corner of South Central and Summit Hill with some bump outs there, projections from the building. We are proposing a mural. That mural right now is not what's going to be in place. We are actually trying to work, and we've talked to some local officials there, or we've talked to Michelle Hummel in the city. We may be talking to some local artists there as well. We're working through that with ownership now. Our thought process, or ownership's thought process, is that, as this is going to Summit, we understand like Central Avenue is, kind of the walking path to the old city. So their initial thoughts are, can we get someone to design something within that mural that's going to help to become an entranceway for the old city, or signify something that's part of the old city, because we know where the hotel is sitting. I think some of the, if we're going through some of the, can we go back to the site plan? I'm going to go through my notes here. Some of the things that we're taking a look at, and some of the things, variations that we're maybe asking for, is right now, if you see the red line itself, that is a property line, but abutting South Central and abutting Summit Hill, which is not completely designated yet, which will get updated for the formal DRV, is that there is an easement, a city easement that's about 5 feet off that. So we can't meet that restriction to be within 0 to 5 feet of the building setback, the build to zone, because of the easements. And we also want to make sure we're keeping a little bit off of those easements as well, because of the foundations and footings of the actual structure itself. One of the other things that we're challenged with as well is looking at entrances every 50 feet along Summit Hill. Right now, looking at that, we're at that entrance right in the middle is about 59 feet from one side and 57 feet from the other side. And part of the issue is it's a pretty significant grade change from as you're kind of coming down Summit Hill. And so what we've tried to do is maintain the hotel at a slab level that's flat for the majority of the hotel component, but then we are stepping it down off South Central, so we can get a pretty, internally we're stepping it down so we can get an entrance to the old city from South Central as well. I think those are kind of the major topics that I had written down for us. And then we are within the 85-foot height limit, so we weren't anticipating putting a step back or anything like that.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate all of the points that you raised, and I felt a little bit nostalgic about the building coming down that this is going to replace, but I'm actually pretty excited about this. So thank you for that. We'll open this up to board discussion.
That building was like gone. Like
Yeah.
it
It
was
didn't
there.
take long.
I appreciate the. Overall, like design wise, I understand the kind of party and massing, but I appreciate. I wish more projects came with saying the words where you had stated that the majority of the material is masonry, and I think the restraint of actually having the more warehouse district symmetry and repetitive pattern of the windows allows you to be more playful with all the other materials. So it lets those, all that eccentricity, honestly have some solidity to it, I think, because the rest of it has the regularity. So I know you guys have been here before with other hotels, and we've gone back and around on materials and that sort of thing. And this one, I don't really feel badly about it, because the Corten is not fake wood, and it is a warm material that is metal, and the brick will be, I think, nice. Are you actually using full bed depth brick, or is it a brick veneer?
We are. Yeah, we've actually already got so yeah, we have this with you already a couple of times. And I think every iteration, every time we come, we learn something new, right? And
Right.
obviously I grew up around Knoxville. And so we always want to make sure that we're, being respectful to the city. And I think that was one of the lessons learned, obviously, one of the earlier brands, they're a lot more intent on wood look things. And so we've obviously with this brand, the Moxie does yield very well to the warehouse district. We are using full depth brick. We've actually, one of the lessons learned we also have done is, we've priced this brick with our GC. They know what's going to be, they know what we're proposing. A
Great.
lot of pricing exercises have come before we've actually approached the board and shown you guys this design to ensure that what we're showing you is not going to be any kind of a, bait and switch or anything like that.
Great.
Yeah. I also want to say that I really appreciate your effort to get a local artist on board for the mural. That's exactly the kind of thing that we try to encourage with people that are doing monumental buildings downtown, is to make them feel like they belong in this place and not just any place. And so I really hope that carries through to the final construction, because that could be really special and exciting.
To your comment about the entrance every 50 feet, and specifically on Summit. I mean, right now Summit has no entrance, and it didn't when there was Merchants of Beer, because Merchants of Beer was tucked down at that lower level on more of the old city side. So I think the transparency and the eyes on the street and the engagement, even having that just barely over the 50 with that central entrance onto Summit, is still a major improvement and not really an issue to me, at least.
No, and that corner has always been kind of loose because of the way that other building was sited on it. And I like how this holds that corner and has a really urban edge. And I think this brand is perfect for that spot for that reason, because it's the bridge between what I would call like traditional downtown and the old city. So it's going to be great.
On the on the central side, on this that central elevation, that the bottom right corner of the building, that will be. It says on the plans a workspace. Is that kind of like the offices for the hotel, or?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think the one thing that caught my eye, both the Summit Hill and the a lot of the elevations has a lot of texture to it, but that bottom right corner right above that workspace, there's that blank brick right there. And I don't know. I think it could be, architects on the board might have different thoughts, but I don't know. I feel like it could be an opportunity, just because when like you were saying earlier, walking up to Central is a primary way that people go. And to me, that it just looks a little boring compared to everything else kind of going on with the building. But overall, I mean, I think it's an exciting project.
Yeah, we can definitely take a look at that area.
Will the level 7 outdoor space be open to the general public in addition to guests? Okay.
Yes.
And you imagine that the bar also would be attractive for people who are not guests to come in and have a drink?
Yeah, I would anticipate both the rooftop bar and actually the ground level bar. The fun thing about both the Moxie brand in itself is just the way they've incorporate the social aspect to all the spaces. Definitely the rooftop component, we would envision, people coming up and being able to activate that and use that rooftop bar. Even the ground floor bar, walk in, we envision, there's a reason we kind of wanted it on those street level on the ground floor to put the bar where it is, because you get both directional views of, the corner of South Central and Summit. And with that, you've got, as people are walking down, you can kind of encapsulate as you're walking past Summit Hill into the old city. You see all the games that are going to be inside. We have got some, I think they've got right now planned some, some table tennis and things like that inside, and some other kind of aspects. So definitely, I think, as you're kind of, I see in our heads, we're like that bar right at that corner. It's a big major component of the Moxie brand. And what the interesting thing about the Moxie brand is you don't actually have a reception desk. When you come in, you check in, you actually check in at the bar, and they give you your guest drink keys at the bar. And part of that is when you check into the hotel, they actually give you a drink token to use at the bar as well.
I appreciate the scale of the drawings and the trees out front, and I've been told this before, that obviously the trees may be just part of your design, your cover to make it look beautiful. But if you could incorporate trees, would you? And I know you're right across from the dog park, but I have a thing about dogs and hotels needing to go to the bathroom. So can you tell me your tree plan or vision?
Yeah, we'll definitely, I don't know if I have a formal tree plan yet, but I think we can probably talk to our civil engineer and figure out how we're gonna make sure and, incorporate something. Because we have enough of because of the setback and the easements that we have, I feel like we have enough space to be able to put some plantings in there. It may just be contingent on what's allowed on top of the easements there, the utility easements.
Yeah, dog-friendly hedges or something.
I have an infrastructure question. Are the street lights on the sidewalk or just adjacent to the sidewalk part of your project? The pole?
I think some of them may have been in place. We'll have to verify that.
And I just wonder because the candy cane style light poles that go through the old city are really iconic, especially around the holidays. And I was really curious to know if that would continue down to the corner. And it's even more interesting whether or not it's going to go up Summit Hill, because that's something that hasn't been done before. And that intersection kind of defines one side of downtown from the old city. And I'm curious to know how that infrastructure change or not change will be handled. And I didn't know if that was in your scope or not.
I think we would comply with the city regulations for the lighting that's required. I would want to kind of continue for the site itself, continue around. So, it's consistent for our project, but I'll need to verify exactly what's required for, in terms of the lighting.
Cool. I'm looking at the rendering on the front cover of the packet. On that rooftop bar recreation area, is that truly a cantilevered overhang, or is there going to be structure under there?
Be structure at the corner.
So there'll be a column there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you describe, I guess, the distance between your building and the adjacent two-story building on Central, and kind of that interaction between the two space, like that space between the two buildings?
Sure. We actually have a required easement between the two buildings. So I'll have to, let's see if I can pull it up. I believe it's a 10-foot easement. And so we've actually, because it's, that easement's actually being utilized as their means of egress out of that part of the building. So we've maintained that. And then we've stepped the building back accordingly, keeping off the property line, or keeping the building off the easement there. So that I think it's a 3-foot pathway. We've actually kind of fronted that as well, and be using that for some access to our building as well for back of house spaces. But we've maintained that easement. So you're going to have a bit of a separation between the two buildings.
Is there going to be a clear path back to that parking lot that's behind? Or, I mean, is that usable space? I mean, is it, if somebody was parking behind, would they be able to just like walk through that to Central? Or everybody's looking for a shortcut to get somewhere. I guess, is it just kind of an empty space that's cut off, or is it?
It isn't. It's not been cut off yet. It is technically an empty space because we have our stair, one of our egress stairs is coming out from that corner of the building. So we would have a pathway that comes up to that side, I guess, fronting between the two. So there is potential for that connectivity.
So it's going to be
I
like
think
an
I'd have to
alley.
take a look at the grade differential, though. I thought that. But
Yeah, it looks pretty flat between the two. It doesn't look like there's a lot of grade difference between Central and that parking lot. It's really Central, or Summit Hills really has all the grade, and then it kind of flattens out pretty quick once you get back to the behind those buildings. But anyway, just something to consider, that, if it's a space that people can maneuver through, it kind of, you can create a neat little space there for something. I don't know.
Well, and also if people are going to be going through there anyway, if it's not going to be obstructed on purpose, then probably lighting on the building to light that alley condition would be really helpful.
Strong alley part 2.
Yeah.
I was gonna add the renderings in the elevation have like a darker brick, and then of course the front cover has that palmetto, that lighter, almost white. I see that's queen size, which is a little bit different. But I think when you're studying these materials, like that's good on the brick, but like thinking the actual brick selection, I think is huge. And considering it being a through body color versus a flashed brick, and then also the texture, like I think whenever you come present to the board, if you're like, hey, we're actually doing brick, but like maybe have a couple of material swatches of adjacent brick around the city, and like the colors, the textures, and they're all going to be pretty similar in the texture. But I think that's going to be it'd be a miss that you did use brick if it ends up being like wildly different and it kind of looks like a Disneyland brick. What I mean by like the sometimes the white kind of when I say flashed, it's just not. It's like a red brick. They just put paint on it basically to make it look like a different color. I think just being really aware of the actual brick that you choose, and I think that like that rendering is different from those elevations, which have like a warmer brown tone. And I think that maybe when you're going through the ABC material studies, if you're just toggling the brick to more of a warmth than the light color, might be better, in my opinion.
So I know the the elevation sometimes, because obviously line weights can read, but we do have a picture of the actual brick that's been used in like downtown Chattanooga. If you want to kind of go down to, we have like a materials page there that kind of shows the actual material. Maybe it's at the end of the page, in the back of the book, right there. So you zoom in there at the bottom, and kind of that's the proposed brick that we were looking at.
Great. So it's more of a tan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a warmer, it's not like stark white, I would say. It's like has a blend, like warmer colors.
Yep.
The two things, the tree on the Summit Hillside that's between the street and the sidewalk that's currently there, will that have to be, it's a fairly large tree. Will that have to be removed? Or is that going to be able to be retained?
I think the goal would be to see if we could retain. I'm not sure how much we'll be able to, but
Yeah,
I
that
think,
tree.
oh, that one right there.
Yeah.
I'll see it. Yeah, let me verify that one. I'll take a look at that and see.
Yeah, I think it would. Yeah, I think it would be really cool to save that if at all possible. The other thing that I was gonna.
We are technically our site starting like behind the sidewalk, I guess. So we were gonna obviously we would try to keep that in place, but I'll verify that.
I don't think they'll be able to knock it down if it's
not on their city.
Yeah.
You could just cut the roots and kill it.
Yeah.
Which is likely to happen.
The other thing that I was going to say is I live just around the corner from where this is at in the Old City, and State Street, with the opening of the stadium, State Street gets really congested on game days and with events. So one thing that I could potentially see is with that valet parking back there, if people were stacking cars or you have ride shares going through there, that spilling out onto State Street, I could see some congestion occurring there. I think there's a challenge with this particular spot, and I think putting that in the back is really smart. But if there's anywhere to put like a pull off or something for ride shares or something that would reduce congestion on State Street, I think you would create a more positive guest experience. Just because I see that back up all the time, especially if there's events going on in the Old City.
Yeah, we had some utility things that were, there's an AT&T box that we're trying to keep in place as well. We'll have to take a look and see if we're permitted to do like another kind of drop off there. I guess our thought and goal was that you could probably double stack the cars there as you're coming into the restaurant. I know it looks narrow, but if it's a one-way drive, potentially be able to side by side come in and do a drop off and circle back around essentially. And if valet is really backed up, they could potentially, have the ability to move some to the service entry if needed while they're kind of going back and forth. But I'm hoping most guests are kind of checking in periodically. They're not like mass like everybody at 3 o'clock. So hopefully with the periodic traffic, there wouldn't be too much of the kind of coming off of or being absorbed off State Street.
Yeah. And this is more of just, it's powering off.
Got kicked out.
It gave up.
You can use mine.
This is just more anecdote than anything, but you might advise guests not to park in the lot adjacent to it if they're not a resident there in that building, because it is $250 if your car gets towed.
Oh, wow.
I know from experience,
Yeah,
and I live in the building.
it's good to know.
Yeah, I'm looking at that alley. It's not technically a deeded alley or anything, but that space between your project and the two-story building that's existing there on the north side. And I think that that's an appropriate facade for that side of the building, but I do think that there is going to be a lot of pedestrian traffic through there. And I know I already mentioned this about the lighting, but giving the pedestrian experience below that sort of row lock brick detail some thought about what that looks like as far as lighting goes
Okay,
would be really helpful just for the safety and the pedestrian experience.
sure. Thank you.
And then you mentioned working with a civil engineer. I'm not sure how far along that process is, but there's some pretty significant downspouts that come down in that area, and just making sure that that gets good drainage so it's not a puddly, smelly, narrow, dark space.
It's from the adjacent building.
No, from your building, the note 12 about the double downspouts. It's roof overflow. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure
All of
that was
ours are
going
internal
somewhere.
Downspouts. Yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
draining internally. It's just an overflow.
Yeah.
I love how you have some projects that are like, yeah, of course we'll drain them internally, and then there's other projects where I'm like, why do you have external gutters and downspouts? And they're like, well, that's just, you can't do that internally. That's insane.
Yeah.
Just depends
I
on
think
the
they're
depends on the
building.
developer.
Yeah. The common comment is, we don't do it that way. Okay, well, I don't want to keep everybody. Does anybody have specific questions or concerns, or do you have any questions for us that you wanted to make sure you nailed down before you feel confident submitting?
I guess my biggest, primarily, I know fenestration, glazing, we're meeting all those requirements. If I am varying from, let's say, the build to zone requirement, or like we talked about a little bit at the entrances off Summit, is there anything that I need to do in particular other than, make note of that and call that out? Is there anything else I have to do before we come to the DRB? Doesn't require any kind of a zoning variance, does it?
It's similar to what we've had with some of these infill cases where y'all are allowed to waive the need for the variance if you think that it's still realizes the principles associated with the guidelines.
Got it.
And that's the discussion of the easement that you can't build over anyway. So it's almost a moot point of us allowing it because it's a necessity. I think also the reason that may not be as much of a issue is because of that one central location. It's not like you're just separating a bunch of storefront that people could be entering, pulling that away from the sidewalk. Like it's already, as engaged as it can be, given the topography and the fact that it's a hotel and not just a ground level retail the whole time.
Yep. And I just want to close by saying that we typically looking out for the pedestrian experience, making sure that it's pleasant and safe and engaging. We want to make sure the building looks like it belongs in Knoxville, Tennessee, and not just generically anywhere. And that using buildings in a downtown area, using materials in a downtown area that are durable and will patina and will, serve well into the future without an inordinate amount of maintenance. And so I think that you've already hit a lot of those things, and I'm really looking forward to this becoming real.
We appreciate everyone's time tonight. And, we look forward to kind of reviewing this. We'll bring, we plan to bring materials and obviously come in person for the formal hearing, but we wanted to at least come present this before that point.
Sounds good. Okay, is everybody satisfied?
This is one last little comment, but on the State Street side, there isn't a sidewalk on the side that the guest entrance is on. So I don't know if that would be something to consider. If people are exiting, I don't know. I just highlight that because I walk through there sometimes. Like, oh, the sidewalk ends. I've got to switch sides of the street. So just something to think about.